So I'm on camera with Tobin Porter, the gallerist and owner of Front Seat Cafe. And we're doing this together for our various friends and relations who couldn't make it from various parts of the country and the world to see the show, even though it's up to 3 months. It comes down on the end of December. I made these 24 pieces over a course of 9 months. And it followed a period where I didn't do any art. And I was very glad to figure out I wanted to work with collage, which entails far fewer materials to make. It entails all the complexity of making art images, but far fewer materials. So maybe we can start looking.
Sounds good.
Okay, so this is one of my early pieces. It's homage to a neighbor, an accomplished artist who works abstractly. It's probably the piece that most resembles Paul's work, Paul Brewer. And so I said the title of the piece is Homage to Paul. This piece here is another abstract. I started out making abstract work. I found it flowed quite easily for me, even though I hadn't been doing art for 7 years. And I call this piece Leaning. It's essentially an abstract piece. Here's another early abstract piece. When I say early, in the context of 9 months of making these. I call it columnar because it's 3 columns. Next to columnar is coffee clutch and is larger, so more complex to put together. I think it speaks for itself. Lots of different shapes, colors, sizes, and it was inspired somewhat by Wayne Thibault, San Francisco artist. Many viewers may know, who did delis and cakes and pastries and coffee shops with bright colors. This one is the largest piece. It's just called Celebration. Speaks for itself. Not much to say about it beyond the word celebration. So come in here. These were earlier pieces in the 9 months period, and that's called Cemetery. And I walk in the cemetery a fair amount with my dog and enjoy looking at the stones. And it's not entirely realistic, of course, but that, for me, is the heart of the thing. And I won't say more. Top piece is done pretty much simultaneously, which is called The Alchemist. And it conveys my sense of what alchemy might be about. But otherwise it's abstract. I had good fun making the 2 ice cream cones. This again is under the influence of Wayne Thibault. You'll see other pieces like the large piece I did, which I could say that Stuart Davis really is the artist who influenced that. There was a cropping I had to do, which made the little pyramids or teeth very subtle here, which if I had to redo the piece, I would make them less subtle. It's 2 ice cream cones. It has a little bit of a political meaning that I'm not going to go into. This was one of some of these pieces took me a long time. And then some of them just poured out and were serendipitous. This is a serendipitous piece where the objects in the background came together and kind of sang. And I didn't have to agonize over it. I worked on this piece before I knew what I was doing. So this is a second draft, completely new start on something that, because I didn't have thick enough paper behind it, resulted in being wavy. And it's called August on Buzzards Bay. I made the first draft in Wareham, on a place right on the water, looking out at Cape Cod, where I spent every summer of my life, or parts of every summer. Deep affection, landscape. Simultaneously, in the evenings, same spot, looking out over Cape Cod here, is the moonlight over the water, Moonlight Buzzards Bay. This is called Lunar, and it really, yes, it represents the crescent, the pre-crescent, the blackness of the giving birth to the moon child. The moon child's growth. I shouldn't say too much. People interpret art the way they do. But it has a progression over time. They're back into the dark hole, with the earth below here and the sun up there. I started to make more, I'm accepting the word celebration, which you see, but I started to make more complicated pictures, not intentional. This is one of the early works that I did coming out of just doing abstract work. And this bowl with water and fish flowing out of it took me quite a long time, but it's 3-dimensional. If you look at it closely, you can see the boy's pants and his shirt through the glass. And it had a subtle shift for me to move into representation art with collage, which I think collage represents, is a medium that lends itself more to abstract work than representation. This was also a piece like the dancers over in the corner. It's called Holy Infant Soul. And I had fun doing it. It's purely abstract on a large scale. And I found that I could cope with it, and it was a pleasure to work on. This is I made that early on. It's called The Woods, and I made it when I made The Cemetery and The Alchemist. Playing with color and form, background, trying to convey my experience the richness of being in the woods. Now, the next one was serendipitous. It's called Storm Visits Paradise. And I find it very amusing. And I noticed several other people did. It was bought early. And it contains my memory of being in places like the Caribbean or the Yucatan, and how suddenly things could change. Here's another abstract called Phases of the Sun. I also did that early on. And my daughter Rose, my younger daughter, who was looking at my early abstracts and said, "Can't you get some motion into this?" She didn't quite say it like that, but no, I suddenly realized, let's have some motion. So I put motion into it, and that became the phases of the sun. These are maybe, you might say, internal phases that are not easily visible. This one I had to redo, but it remained thematically the same, Giza. And Giza has a lot of mystery. And one of the mysteries is, where did the technicians who had the knowledge to build this originate? And a lot of myths says they originated on a transoceanic dimension. Well, it's suggestive. This is a very simple, early piece called Guardians. And I was probably, in a way, influenced unconsciously by my brother and sister-in-law, Philip Baldwin and Monica Gugelsberg, who are world-class glassblowers. And they have, one of their major works over a period of time are called Guardians. And it looks nothing like this, but the idea of shapes being guardians. This is one of my very last pieces, and also one of my most agonizing to complete. There are many details in it. You have to get close to see the snow machines, the snowmobiles, and the village or little town across the lake, and the owl, and his mate in the trees. And cutting out those trees and pasting them was arduous. It's called Winter, and there's a little bit of a backstory on that, which I was actually inspired by Peter Bruegel the Elder's Winter, a great painting made 400 years ago. And he has 3 trees and 3 hunters, maybe 4. And they're walking down toward skaters way below on a pond. It's a frozen landscape. It's during the daytime, it's overcast, and his wonderful painting. I decided, look, we don't have hunters that go out with dogs. I put in dogs, mainly as an homage to him, and figures that all of this kind of detail is not exactly, but inspired by Bruegel's version, Winter. One of my early and favorite pieces, this is a piece where I decided let's go bigger, make a large, not as big as some of the pieces we've seen, but larger, and keep the shapes and colors simple. So there's only 3 colors, black, brown, and blue. And I like the piece. It's mostly abstract, but it's obviously, I think, connotative of being in the woods, seeing the stream, feeling the stream. This up above, I just call it abstract, I believe. It was one of the first things I did. I had to dicker with it. There it is. It's three colors, three rectangular forms. And the very last piece I did was here. And it actually caused me a fair amount of grief, but I got it done finally. And it speaks for itself. It's called The Longing. You don't know whether it's the dove longing for the human or the human longing for the dove. You can interpret it either way or neither way. All right. I think that's it.